I am sick of the word podcasting. If you're creating a podcast for your business, you need to know that building a podcast as a marketing asset is not the same as marketing a podcast. Too many businesses misunderstand the use case for starting what is called, for the lack of a better term, a podcast. They approach podcasting wrong and it causes them to miss out on a valuable marketing opportunity. They're missing a tremendous content asset builder because of the stereotypes of what podcasting used to be. By the end of this video, you'll understand the real way to use a podcast for your business, which measurement metrics to ignore, and how to actually measure the success of a business podcast. Some companies start this the right way, then make one decision that quietly kills the whole thing. And I'll show you what that is later on in the video. When you research podcasting for business, you'll find descriptions of a show you grow as big as you can so you can sell ads and sponsorships. This is not what you want for your business. There is one kind of podcast like that, but it's the wrong kind for a business. Podcast marketing, the way it works for a business, means using a podcast to do your marketing. The show is not the product you sell. The show is how you communicate with your business audience, build relationships, and bring customers closer to doing business with you. Hi, I'm A. Lee Judge, and what I'm sharing with you is backed by over 20 years helping businesses grow revenue through operational marketing strategies. My agency serves dozens of companies to build content machines, including podcasts and video content designed to drive revenue. Since putting this approach to work, our clients have built a bigger digital presence, armed their sales teams with content that helps close real deals, and earn more visibility across YouTube and AI search. But before any of this works, you have to understand what a content asset actually is, because it behaves nothing like an advertisement. So let's talk about an asset versus an ad. A content asset behaves nothing like an advertisement, and that difference is the whole reason a business podcast works. An ad only works while you're paying for it. The moment you stop spending, the ad stops and the value stops with it. A content asset works the other way around. You build it once and it keeps bringing you value over time. It's always available and it reaches your customers when they're doing their own research long after the day you created it. This is what a business or branded podcast is. It is content that is a business asset. One recorded conversation keeps earning for months, while an ad you ran last month is already gone. An ad ends when the spending ends. An asset keeps building value and keeps working while your buyers are researching on their own time. Once you see the podcast as an asset and not an ad or a place to place ads, the very first question most companies ask exposes the whole problem. Let's talk about that next. Looking at the wrong benchmarks is a red flag. One of the biggest red flags I hear when a business wants to start a podcast is the question, what are the benchmarks for a successful podcast? My response is that it depends on the goals for their business. For a company, the goal is not to create a famous podcast or become famous. The goal is to move the business forward. Here's why that question's a trap, because almost all the data people find when they research comes from a world built on advertising and sponsorships. That model depends on high downloads and fame, because downloads and fame are exactly what you pitch to a potential advertiser. A business podcast has nothing to do with any of that. So the metrics to ignore if you're running a podcast for your business are download counts, subscriber counts, chart ratings, and any benchmark built for a show that sells ads. Those numbers are how an advertiser decides to pay a media outlet. They're not how a business decides if its marketing is working. Now that you know the wrong targets, let's measure the success of a business podcast against your business goals. Is your digital footprint expanding? Does your sales team have more content they can actually use in deals? Is your visibility growing, including in YouTube and in AI search? Is the content showing up in real sales conversations? Those are the signals that a business podcast is actually working. Notice that download statistics are not in there at all. When you measure your show against benchmarks built for a different business model, you're measuring the wrong thing from day one. So, a quick question while you're here. Were you about to judge your podcast by downloads? Yes or no? Drop it in the comments. I read every one. If the goal is to move the business forward, the real value shows up in one place, and it has nothing to do with how many people listen. The real value is that the conversation creates content, and that content reaches all the way into your sales process. Creating video in a conversational manner is a tremendous asset builder for your content marketing. Let's look at how one conversation produces for your sales team. You build a library of sales enablement tools. Your sales team can use the videos, the clips, and the articles from those conversations inside real deals. And then these assets can be included in sales one-sheets, emails, and even newsletter content. Those conversations expose your company's opinion and experience. Plus, they do an excellent job of showing your brand's values and your expertise. The conversation creates the content. Content then creates substantial ammunition for your sales team to use to move deals forward. This is the part most people miss, the sales process. To get all of that content from one conversation, you have to capture it in the right way, and that starts with video. It's a given that a business podcast should start with video, and audio should be a byproduct, not the starting point. I mean, back in the day, audio podcast was the origin, but a video podcast is your starting point now. Video should be the default for a few clear reasons. It's much easier to capture video for a video podcast than it used to be. The amount of content you can create from a video podcast is far wider than audio ever allowed. A video podcast is more discoverable, and once it's on YouTube, you're publishing to the second largest search engine in the world, and that content shows up in AI results too. None of that was possible with audio only. If you have a video podcast, you can strip the audio and send it to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Audio is a given because it comes out of your original video. You see, video is the master file. Everything else is an export. And there's a bonus that most companies miss. You don't even have to publish the recordings as a series of episodes. A video podcast can simply be a way to capture video conversations to use on your website, in your social channels, or on YouTube. By the way, if you need help capturing your internal experts on video and turning those conversations into a steady stream of content, my agency Content Monster does this every day for our clients. The link is in the description. Now, even with all of that, the word podcast still trips people up, so let's fix the picture that's in your head. It's really a talk show, not a podcast. A lot of leaders still picture a podcast as two people in headphones talking into a microphone, and that picture is holding them back. I would like for us to break away from the term podcast because it conjures up visions of NPR or broadcasting. What companies are building now are technically video shows or expert conversations captured on video. You can create a full talk show to discuss your industry or even your offerings. Talk show is a much more appropriate term than podcast, as long as you stay away from sounding like an infomercial. The simplest way I describe it is this: a video podcast is a conversation among experts where your audience is privy to the conversation, sort of like a fly on the wall to an expert conversation. Once you picture it as a talk show, the next question is, who belongs in the chairs? Who are your guests? Who do you put on camera? Who belongs in the guest chair is where the business model and the media model split apart for sure. The media model says, book the biggest names you can find. The business model is different. And in the business model, two guest types work. The first type is well-known industry leaders, people anyone in your industry would recognize as experts. The second type is your own internal leadership and expertise, from the executives down to the engineers, the subject matter experts who built the thing you sell. The important word is industry. These are recognizable names in your industry, not necessarily in the world. Every industry has its celebrities, even if it's industrial flooring. Bringing in people tied to brands that are well known in your industry works too, because those brands lend expertise. You gain credibility by association. Being in the proximity of those well-known names lends credibility to your name and to your company. Tell me in the comments, what kind of people work best for your industry? I'd love to know. Now, even with the right guest and the right setup, some business podcasts still fail, and the reason is rarely what people expect. When a business podcast fails, the reason is rarely audio or video quality or a busy calendar. It is a strategy problem. This is the one decision that quietly kills it. The brand did not understand content marketing or the time frames around it. Content marketing is the long game. You don't start a content program and get results in the same month. The decision that kills it is treating a content asset like a paid ad, like we mentioned before, and then they quit in a quarter because the bottom line didn't move in 30 days. Remember, an ad stops working the day you stop paying. An asset is still working months later, which is exactly why early impatience will kill a podcast. The other failure is leadership not understanding how much of their contribution matters. Now, we've had a company leader or a high-level executive host a show, which is an excellent move when their calendar can sustain it. In most cases, though, the calendar is rarely the real blocker. The blocker is expecting results in one quarter when content marketing doesn't work the way they expected. The signals I covered earlier, which are a wider presence, sales content that gets used, and visibility that keeps climbing, those build over months. A leader staring at the bottom line within 30 days will not see the swell of content assets that supports the business for months to come. This is why at Content Monster, we stress strategy as much as production. We're a content marketing agency and we focus on building the business, and production is one of the means we use to do it. And patience matters because of how content marketing actually works, and that's where most people get the model backwards. Let's talk about the money model behind podcasting, because as we mentioned earlier, podcasts based on getting advertisement and sponsorships don't work the same. You would never seek sponsorships to pay for your blog articles. It's content to help inform and attract customers. A business podcast is the same thing. It's a business asset used to bring customers to the business. And it's a business asset that creates more business assets because it's pillar content that produces other content beneath it. When a CEO asks me a question like, if we get big enough, can we make money from sponsors too? My honest answer is yes, you could, but that's not what you're in business for. If you sell software, you're not trying to become an advertising agency. You sell software. The podcast is not the revenue. The podcast is what brings you to the revenue source. And once that model is clear, the last thing standing between you and a working show is how it actually gets produced. That brings us to remote video production. To understand how these podcasts are actually made, we have to talk about production. Two misconceptions about video podcasting sit on opposite ends of the spectrum, and both of them stop companies from starting their video podcast. Some executives think it should look like a Zoom meeting. In that case, the quality, the structure, and the strategy are all pretty poor. Others think it requires a big studio, lots of time, and long planning efforts. That's also wrong. Remote video production can produce a high-quality podcast with scheduling flexibility, no studio required, and far more professional look than a conference call. It is not a conference call, and it is not a studio session. It is a remote video production session. You can achieve a quality podcast that serves your business goals by using remote video production. No Zoom calls and no studio time needed. Once production is handled the right way, the payoff for your business is significant. And here's why it's worth the investment. A video podcast is worth the investment because of what it keeps doing for your business after you record it. It shows your company has real people with real experience and real knowledge. You can imagine that's very important right now in the age of AI content. It sells for your company 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, while your customers do their own research on their own time, and it builds trust before they ever reach your team. Plus, a video podcast lets you create a great amount of presence in a minimal amount of time. This is business efficiency. And if you want to learn more about how to capture thought leadership video from busy executives and experts, watch the next video, and I'll see you there.